Hey everyone, before we get started with the video, just wanted to let you know that my annual Black Friday sale is coming up. It will be held from the 26th of November 2021 through the 29th of November 2021. So this is the single sale that I do each year, and it's the one time a year that you're able to get BP Autosports products, being manifolds, being merge collectors, catch can, coolant overflow combos, fill pots, and what have you on sale. And the sale will go live on the 26th of November at www.bpautosports.net. The website is linked in the description below, and I look forward to the orders that you all place and look forward to building parts for you. So now that that bit of housekeeping is out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. The last video we went ahead and we mounted the transmission cooler in the front of the Supra. And that was the second to last item that needed to be mounted prior to determining what components are necessary to do all of the plumbing for the car. All the fittings, all the hose, so on and so forth. So the final component that needs to be mounted prior to being able to plumb the car is the water pump. And if you watched that last video, I needed to get another tool in order to mount the pump in the location and in the manner that I wanted to. So I went ahead and I ordered that tool. It is right over here. And we have another riv nut tool. And this one, as opposed to the Astro tool, you can see the Astro tool works along this vertical axis, whereas this tool works along this horizontal axis. So what that means is the new tool will fit in tighter confines, i.e. the space between the block and the frame rail of the car, to allow me to put rib nuts to mount the plate that the water pump will be mounted to. So I guess let's go over to the bench and we can see what needs to happen to make the plate that the pump mounts to. So what we're working with, I have this extra piece of aluminum sheet metal or plate. It's 3/16 thick. I have a bunch of M4 fasteners. I have a bunch of these spacers here. They're just little nylon spacers. And I have the pump itself. So what we are going to do is to design a mounting plate that puts the pump on the plate like so. On this side there will be a fastener in these two corners. On this side there will be one in the center. So we'll have 3 points of contact. It will be mounted and solid and all of that. And these spacers will serve to space the pump out a little bit. As you can see, the backside of the motor and the impeller right there, that sits a little bit past the bottom side of the pump housing. So we need to space out for that. And in addition to that, those spacers will provide a little bit of a buffer or a shock absorber to prevent issues happening due to vibration and what have you as the car is operating. So what we need to do is, first, there are 5 holes around the outside of this pump. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They need to be drilled slightly to allow our fastener to pass through. As you can see right there, it does not go through the hole. So I'll go ahead, I can drill those out, and then I might try to disassemble this pump to make it easier to transfer the bolt pattern onto this plate, and we can get going with designing this and all of that. So let me go ahead, get these drilled, and we will continue from there. there we have the pump mocked up on the plate. Now, the shape of the plate, I'm still going to trim that, but for the time being right now, I wanted to test the bolt holes, make sure everything worked out well, make sure my spacers worked the way I wanted them to, and everything is perfect. So you can see that we have quite a bit of space to the motor on the back side, allows the little wiring harness to go wherever it needs to, and the pump is pretty solid on there, which I'm kind of surprised by. M6 fasteners are usually the smallest I like to use for anything, so M4s were a bit on the dainty side, but they seem to be holding quite all right, although I may put some locking washers or something along those lines on here just to make sure they don't back out, as I'm not tightening these down extraordinarily hard, as I don't want to compress my spacers any more than I have to. And on the bottom side, we have no poke through with the ends of the fasteners, so my measurements worked out well for that. So now I can go ahead and mark out and figure out the rough form this is going to take, as I'm not just going to put a big rectangular plate on the side of the frame rail. I'm going to get a little bit artsy with it, make some curves, make it a little bit nicer, church it up a bit, if you will. And we will make this a really nice looking plate, and before long we'll have it mounted on the frame rail in the car. So before we do that, I have to go ahead and get a little bit artsy. Let's go ahead and do that, and we can keep going from there. We have the wonderful ambiance of the water treatment system going in the background, but that will not stop me from showing you guys what we got accomplished. So as you saw during the time lapse, we have the water pump mounted. It's nice and firmly in place, 5 fasteners holding the pump to the plate, and 3 fasteners holding the plate to the frame rail. So the new riv nut tool worked awesome for this. Was a nice little $30 purchase that worked out perfectly for doing this project. I had to disassemble a little bit of this, as you saw with me reassembling it. The dry sump pump had to come out, the steering shaft had to come out to allow clearance for my 90-degree drill to get in there to punch the holes in the frame rail, but all is well. Our rib nuts are in place, everything's tight, and the intake manifold is the only thing that needs to be reinstalled at this point. So one quick note, which if you guys watch Taylor Ray, Jimmy Oakes, any of the guys that use riv nuts fairly frequently, you want to put paint down prior to installing the riv nut. Anytime you are punching a hole, I guess mainly in steel, if you're punching a hole, you need to paint that as you need to paint the raw metal, as it is not painted, obviously, by the time you run a drill bit through it. And in order to prevent rust and to prevent any rot from happening, you want to get some paint down just to preserve your project. The last thing that you want is it rotting out for something stupid that could have been prevented very easily with a couple minutes worth of work. I'm going to set you guys down now. I'll throw the intake manifold back on, and we can see what this looks like with the manifold in place, see how well the intake manifold hides the water pump, although that really was not my intent with mounting it here. It really was just being a little bit opportunistic with a good spot to mount the pump. But that being said, I'll get the manifold back on and let's take a look at it then. With the intake manifold in place, if you're standing looking at it from, I guess this is my vantage point, you can't really see the pump unless you are looking for it. So definitely very happy with that. And the pump is nice and solidly mounted, but not too solid where vibrations and harmonics are going to wreak havoc on the pump as this vehicle is operating. So another project knocked out, and now we can finally go ahead and figure out our laundry list of plumbing components to start running lines on this thing. Now that we have the water pump mounted, that does not signify the end of this video. There is one additional project that I want to accomplish in this video, and that is going to be the pedestal mount for the shifter. And it will be part mount, part block off plate, as we will be covering up that hole for the factory shifter, or that the factory shifter protrudes through. And it will also serve as a pedestal to get the shifter at the correct height, correct angle, correct positioning for me to be comfortable to go through the gears, whether it be on the street, on the track, what have you. So that will not happen right now. That will happen in the next day or two, as it's about time for me to get out of here right now. But I will catch up with you guys then, and we can go ahead and start knocking out the shifter mount and to knock one additional piece off of the to-do list to finish this car up. And we are back to work on the second aluminum project for this video. What we are going to be working on is building the pedestal mount for my shifter. Now, if you remember a couple of videos ago, I showed that I purchased this really nice M&M safe neutral, clean neutral shifter for the silver car. And I opted to not have them include their little tube mount, as I had an idea of how I wanted to build the mount myself. So that's what we are going to do. And what we need to do to begin this is what you guys have seen me do multiple times in the past. That is transfer bolt patterns, drill holes, get prepared to begin building this mount. So we need to do the foundational work prior to actually getting the shifter in there, figuring out our heights and our angles and what have you. So I have the billet shifter base right here. Goes in the bottom portion of the shifter and is what all of this will bolt to. This will go on this piece of 2-inch wide strip stock here. And then this piece right here is part of the factory shifter grommet, shifter seal, what have you. And it shows the 4-bolt pattern that we need to account for in the car itself. So I'll go ahead and figure out which holes on this base I'm going to use, mark those out on this strip stock, figure out where this bolt pattern needs to lie on this piece here, transfer those holes, then I can drill all of the holes, bolt the pieces together, and we can start moving forward with the shifter base from there. we now have the shifter pedestal fabricated, mocked up in the car. Let's take a look at it. So this is what we ended up with, and I am absolutely stoked with it. So I know I didn't go over a whole lot of the design process as I was building it. I kind of just built it and did a time lapse. So let's go over some of the high points of the design now. So what this does, it serves two purposes. It obviously spaces the shifter, puts it in its correct location, and it blocks off the factory shifter hole. As this was originally a manual transmission car, now it has a turbo 400 in it. So this spaces the shifter up 2 inches, which puts it in a very nice ergonomic location where I am stuffed back in the seat as far as I can go, about where I would be during an actual pass. So I can reach the shifter without any issue, which is awesome. And even getting it into the neutral position right there, all is well there. So the way that I designed this, we have our beauty holes in both sides of it, and I went ahead and chamfered all of them. And you guys have seen me with now this project and the water pump mount using a router on aluminum. And you can do this. I would highly advise trying to do it on steel, stainless, titanium, anything like that. But aluminum is soft enough where you don't really cause any undue harm to the router. And it works out perfectly fine to put nice uniform chamfers on pieces of aluminum, and obviously wood for that matter. So chamfered all around the base plate, all of the holes, the front and back leading, or the leading and trailing edges of it, everywhere where there is not a, or there will not be a weld seam. Beyond that, we have a nice run for our shifter cable, which I may end up removing the handbrake and running the cable through this hole right here, but that is a decision to be made at a later date. But with all of that being said, I am absolutely stoked with the way this came out. Now, I probably will catch myself sitting in here and going through the gears after work or during breaks at work until the car actually is ready to run and drive. So the only thing left to do with this piece now is to pull it out, disassemble it, take the shifter off, obviously pull it out of the car, and weld all of the seams. So let's go ahead and do that now. So that way this project is done, I can put it in, and then that will be, and I know I sound like a broken record, but it will be another piece off of the to-do list and another bite out of the whale that is this project. The shifter pedestal is now mounted in the car. It looks awesome and functions awesomely, so let's take a look at it. And coming around to the driver's side, there we are. Nice M&M shifter in there. The shifter hole, factory shifter hole, is nicely blocked off. This thing is really solid in there, which I'm very happy about. You see, at times people, they mount shifters in cars and there's a little bit of slop there, a little bit of wiggle and jiggle with them, and I did not want that with this thing. I wanted a nice firm feeling as I shift through the gears, and this mount provides that without problem. So welds came out nicely. It's pretty easy to work with. Have just 4 bolts down there on the transmission tunnel flange, And I have the option for 5 bolts to hold the shifter base to the shifter itself. Granted, I have just 4 in right now. Really don't think I need the 5th, but the option is there if I so choose to take advantage of it. And let's see if we can see over the top there. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. The shifter mounts at an ergonomic angle to the driver's center line, I guess, for lack of a better description. And the reason I did that is the angle that your arm naturally wants to come out from your body, that angle accounts for that to make it a very comfortable position in very comfortable movement to shift gears in this thing. So I'm very happy with this, very happy with the way this project came out. And as I've been saying, it's one more item off the to-do list, one more bite out of the whale until this car is completed. The next order of business for this thing will be plumbing. And I need to write up an entire laundry list of different components and fittings and hose ends and hose itself and what have you to plumb this thing and to get all of the lines made for it from front to back. Yeah, I'm not going to do that list right now, but in the next, hopefully a few days, I can come in, take some time, and start writing it out. And I'm going to try my best to do it where I don't forget any components, don't miss anything, but I think that oversight is almost an inevitability for a plumbing project of this scope. But that will not be in this video. That will be, hopefully in the not too distant future, that will be tackling that portion of this project. So with the completion of the mounting plate for the water pump and mounting the water pump for that matter in this car, as well as the shifter mount, shifter pedestal, that will be the conclusion of this video. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you guys in the next one.